Don't!
ReBoot series, 1994 to 2001. Before the metaverse, before TikTok filters, before you even considered asking your Gemini to play Spotify, there was ReBoot. Premiering in 1994, ReBoot was the world's first fully computer-animated TV series. Yes, even before Pixar's Toy Story hit the big screen. Mainframe Entertainment brought this Canadian cult classic to life, opening up a digital world like no other. It dropped viewers right into the wild, code-driven city of Mainframe, where viruses played the role of villains and games could actually wipe you out. So if you're feeling nostalgic and want to relive those good old days, or if you're just a curious newcomer trying to figure out how a TV show could foresee digital culture before it was even a thing, come on in as we dive into the complete lore of the series. If you appreciate our efforts in bringing you this content, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more.
The tear! Lock down the tear!
Season 1, 1994 to 1995. Episode 1, The Tearing. Guardian Bob arrived in Mainframe with precision and confidence, swiftly outmaneuvering Megabyte's bumbling henchmen Hack and Slash during a high-speed chase through the city's data streams. Almost immediately, Megabyte contacted him via VidWindow, his sinister face flickering across the screen. He ordered Bob to stabilize a mysterious tear threatening the sector's stability. Bob refused, sensing danger behind Megabyte's urgency. In retaliation, Megabyte threatened Dot and Enzo, Bob's newfound friends. The following morning, Dot's diner was left vandalized, spray-coded with Megabyte's insignia by his goons. Seeing Dot's heartbreak only strengthened Bob's resolve to protect Mainframe. When Megabyte repeated his demands to stabilize the tear, Bob declined again, determined not to become a pawn. Suddenly, a game cube descended upon the sector. Bob raced to enter it, knowing a user win would preserve the sector, but Megabyte's forces blocked his path. Helplessly, Bob watched the game play out. The user lost. In an instant, the entire sector was nullified, leaving only emptiness in its place. Burdened with guilt and frustration, Bob sought guidance from Fong, who warned him about Megabyte's ambition and manipulations. Fong advised him to keep his enemies close, but to act with utmost caution. Ignoring the warning, Bob decided to confront Megabyte directly. He ventured alone to the Silicon Tor, Megabyte's fortress-like base, determined to end the looming threat. But Megabyte had prepared for his arrival. The villain trapped Bob in a powerful binding device, revealing his true intentions. The tear was a gateway, a portal to the supercomputer, and stabilizing it would grant him access to infinite power. Bob refused, unwilling to risk Mainframe's destruction for Megabyte's ambitions. As tensions escalated, Dot appeared at the Tor, intent on rescuing Bob. Her arrival triggered chaos. The tear destabilized further, crackling with uncontrolled energy. Before Bob could react, a game cube suddenly descended onto the sector, enveloping them all. Inside the game, titled Starfighter, Bob and Dot piloted their fighter ships against Megabyte, who controlled an imposing battlecruiser. Laser blasts and evasive maneuvers lit up the digital sky as Bob targeted Megabyte's systems. In the final moments, Bob disrupted Megabyte's escape plan and flew towards the tear, entering it before Megabyte could follow. Using covert, invisible commands he had learned during his time at the supercomputer, Bob sealed the tear behind him, leaving Megabyte trapped within the collapsing game. Bob and Dot reappeared at Dot's diner, under the quiet glow of Mainframe's neon skyline. Exhausted but triumphant, they reaffirmed their commitment to protecting Mainframe and supporting each other, knowing their unity remained the system's strongest defense against the darkness that lurked beyond.
I said take it back.
Episode 2, Racing the Clock. Enzo launched Enzo's overwrite delivery service with boundless enthusiasm, hoping to match his sister Dot's success at Dot's diner. He spent days painting signs, configuring order terminals, and rehearsing slogans to attract customers. But despite his efforts, business remained painfully slow. Determined not to give up, Enzo was overjoyed when he finally received his first major job, a delivery from Megabyte himself. Megabyte had hired Enzo to transport a mysterious package to hexadecimal in Lost Angles. Thrilled by the chance to prove himself, Enzo raced home to share the news with Dot and Bob, his excitement bubbling over. But as he spoke, he let slip the destination. Dot immediately grew alarmed. She knew Lost Angles was too dangerous for Enzo, especially if hexadecimal was involved. Overriding his protests, she insisted Bob handle the delivery instead. Bob traveled to Lost Angles with the package in hand, unaware of its true contents. Inside was a mask embedded with a hidden delete command, a bomb disguised as a simple delivery item. Megabyte intended to destroy Hexadecimal, his chaotic sister, once and for all. However, Hexadecimal's suspicious nature kept her alert. Sensing danger, she forced Bob to return the mask to Megabyte, but in a cruel twist, she placed the mask on Bob himself, activating its countdown, before sending him hurtling back towards the Silicon Tor. Meanwhile, Enzo, determined to fix his mistake, secretly trailed Bob's journey. When Dot learned what was happening, she rushed to join them. Together they raced to warn Bob before the bomb's timer reached 0. Before they could reach him, a GameCube descended from the sky, engulfing Bob, Dot and Enzo in its pulsing energy. They found themselves inside a high-speed Formula One racing game. Bob had rebooted as a sleek racer, but the bomb mask was fused onto the hood of his car, its timer still ticking down. Dot and Enzo, rebooted as racers themselves, accelerated onto the track to catch him and explain the danger. As engines roared and data sparks flew, Enzo and Dot maneuvered alongside Bob, managing to alert him with only seconds to spare. Bob's quick thinking and advanced Guardian commands redirected the detonation's energy, triggering an infinite data-else-if loop that corrupted and collapsed the entire game safely without harming mainframe. When they emerged back into the city, shaken but unharmed, Megabyte fired Enzo immediately for failing the mission. Though disappointed, Enzo felt relief wash over him. He, Bob, and Dot walked home together, realizing they had gained something far more valuable than credits or reputation, a deeper understanding of honesty, responsibility, and the unbreakable strength they found in each other.
The icon! Hit his icon!
Episode 3. Quick and the Fed. Bob intercepted Megabyte's latest scheme at the Silicon Tor before it could unfold fully. Megabyte had devised a powerful magnet capable of creating a portal to the supercomputer, threatening mainframe's stability yet again. Acting swiftly, Bob secured the magnet inside a protective casing and brought it back to Dot's diner for safekeeping. While Bob explained the situation to Dot, Enzo's curiosity got the better of him. Fascinated by Bob's multifunctional tool, Glitch, he grabbed it and playfully transformed it into a jackhammer mode. The sudden vibrations shook the diner, knocking plates and cups to the floor. Worse still, the impact loosened the magnet's casing. Before anyone could react, the magnet flew from its container and attached itself firmly to Dot's forehead. Within seconds, her code began to flicker and distort, partially erasing her data. Horrified, Bob rushed to Fong for guidance. But as always, Fong required Bob to beat him in a game of Pong before offering advice. Once victorious, Bob listened intently as Fong explained the only cure was slow food from Al's Wait and Eat on level 31. Fong also warned that Dot must avoid any shocks or disruptions until she receives the food. Time was slipping away. Bob raced to level 31, only to find Al's diner overflowing with patrons lined up around the block. To make matters worse, Megabyte's henchmen, Hack and Slash, loomed nearby, ready to interfere. Bob bargained desperately for an order of slow food, narrowly avoiding conflict, and sprinted out with the package clutched tightly. As he rushed back, a GameCube descended over the sector, trapping him inside before he could reach Dot. Inside the game, themed like medieval castles and knights, Bob rebooted as a silver-armored knight. Hearing Dot's faint voice calling out spurred him forward. Mounting a dragon operated by Al and the waiter, he soared over stone towers, battling the user's black-armored knight, skeletal warriors, and jousting champions in a desperate bid to rescue Dot. Finally, he reached a high tower, only to discover Enzo, disguised and tied up as bait. Dot soon arrived, rebooted as a fellow knight, sword drawn and ready. Together they launched an all-out assault against the user's icon, shattering it and securing Mainframe's victory before the game collapsed. Back in the diner, Bob administered the slow food to Dot, restoring her data stability instantly. Meanwhile, Megabyte stormed in, demanding the return of his magnet. Without hesitation, Bob released it unshielded. The magnet drained Megabyte's energy and sent him, along with Hack and Slash, plummeting into the lower system levels in a humiliating defeat. As calm returned, Dot smiled wryly. Her cure had worked faster than expected. She reminded Bob she was Al's business partner, an unexpected connection that carried its own quiet power.
Funny, I sense a presence.
That would be me!
Episode 4, Medusa Bug. Mainframe plunged into chaos when Hexadecimal set her latest scheme into motion. Seeking amusement, she tricked Megabyte into stealing the enigmatic Medusa from her lair. Megabyte, hungry for power and unaware of its true nature, believed the Medusa was a formidable weapon he could wield to control the mainframe. Without hesitation, he activated it. The consequences were immediate and devastating. Instead of unleashing destructive force against his enemies, the Medusa revealed itself as a viral bug that petrified anything it touched, freezing its victims into stone-like statues. Within moments, Megabyte himself and his towering silicon Tor were turned into silent monuments. Elsewhere, Bob, Dot, and Enzo were enjoying a rare, peaceful afternoon. Determined to give Dot a break from her endless work, Bob and Enzo convinced her to join them for a picnic. As they relaxed under Mainframe's shimmering data skies, Enzo's loyal dog, Frisket, suddenly froze mid-bark. Horrified, they watched as his metallic red fur turned grey and rigid. Realizing something far more dangerous was unfolding, Bob rushed them back to the principal's office. Fong, already aware of the spreading threat, ordered a citywide evacuation. He warned that the Medusa bug would continue to spread, gradually degrading and petrifying all of Mainframe until no living code remained. Bob refused to stand by helplessly. Arming himself with a boosted viral erase command, he deployed it across the infected city sectors in a desperate attempt to halt the virus. But the Medusa bug proved too powerful, bypassing his every effort. Slowly, sector by sector, all of Mainframe fell silent and grey. Eventually, even the principal office succumbed. Dot, Enzo, Fong, and the last evacuees were petrified in place, locked in expressions of fear and disbelief. Only Bob remained standing, his guardian code granting him temporary immunity against the spreading virus. Alone in a lifeless city, he realized there was only one way to end the crisis. He made his way to Hexadecimal's lair, navigating the silent streets lined with stone victims frozen mid-motion. There, surrounded by her eerie statues, Hexadecimal regarded him with mild curiosity, enjoying the unsettling calm she had created. Bob quietly pointed out what she refused to see. Though Mainframe was quiet and still, it was no longer alive. It was a system devoid of joy, chaos, or meaning. For the first time, Hexadecimal appeared shaken. Understanding the true horror of her creation, she snapped her fingers. In an instant, the petrification lifted. Across Mainframe, color and motion returned as code reactivated, freeing its citizens from their silent prison. Later that day, Bob, Dot, Enzo, and Frisket returned to Floating Point Park for their interrupted picnic, cherishing their restored world. But their relief was short-lived. Above them, a glowing warning descended, an incoming game cube, signaling that peace in Mainframe never lasted long. Episode 5, The Tiff. Dot's days were becoming impossibly hectic. Between late flights, missed strategy meetings, and an ever-growing list of responsibilities at Dot's diner and beyond, she felt like she was always one step away from collapse. When Bob and Enzo finally arrived for breakfast after their roaring early morning circuit race, she was furious. Her frustration boiled over when she learned Bob had pulled Enzo out of his ancient languages class just to watch racing. Dot scolded Bob harshly, insisting Enzo's studies were more important than his reckless stunts. Bob snapped back, accusing Dot of stifling Enzo's childhood with endless lessons and no fun. Their voices rose until Bob stormed out of the diner, vowing not to return. Dot, equally stubborn, swore she didn't care if he never did. Enzo watched them with despair, feeling his world split down the middle. Refusing to let their friendship end this way, he sought Fong's guidance. Fong, ever cryptic, mused that broken friendships are best mended by tragedy or apology. Enzo took his words quite literally, hatching a dramatic plan to force reconciliation. He staged his own crisis, spreading word that Megabyte had captured him and tied him to a deadly conveyor belt at Pearson's data dump. Panicked, Dot and Bob raced separately to the site, hearts pounding at the thought of Enzo in danger. But their relief quickly turned back to anger when they began bickering over how to rescue him. As their argument escalated, Enzo's faithful dog, Frisket, took matters into his own jaws, leaping onto the conveyor to untie Enzo himself. Though safe, Enzo realized his plan had failed. Undeterred, he tried again. This time he crafted holographic holomark apologies from Bob to Dot and Dot to Bob, urging each to meet the other at Floating Point Park. Both arrived, suspicious but hopeful, only for old bitterness to resurface in tense silence. Before either could leave, a game cube descended, trapping them together. They found themselves aboard Starship Alcatraz, a perilous sci-fi game requiring perfect teamwork to win. Forced to collaborate against enemy drones, locked doors and system traps, Bob and Dot gradually fell back into their old rhythm. Bob protected Dot from attacks, while Dot deciphered complex control codes to unlock their path forward. By the time they reached the final level, their earlier anger had softened into understanding. They secured victory together, reactivating the sector just as the game collapsed around them. Back in Floating Point Park, Bob promised he'd return to the diner, while Dot quietly admitted Mainframe felt incomplete without him. Watching them from afar, Enzo felt relief flood his tiny processor. His plan, dramatic and clumsy though it was, had worked. Their friendship was whole again, and for Enzo, that was worth any risk or embarrassment.
I want my command.
Episode 6. In the Belly of the Beast. Frisket never intended to become the center of chaos that day. It all started when he accidentally swallowed an unformat command, a rare and invaluable tool once discovered by Old Man Pearson, but later stolen by the ever-scheming Megabyte. The command was dangerous in the wrong hands, and Megabyte knew it. Without wasting a second, he sent his bumbling henchmen, Hack and Slash, to retrieve it. Their mission took them to the data dump tower, where Frisket, ever loyal and ever curious, found himself in the wrong place at the worst time. During the scuffle, the command was knocked loose, and Frisket, in his usual impulsive way, ingested it without a thought. Almost immediately, something felt wrong. The unformat command wasn't meant to reside within an organic system, and it began to distort Frisket from the inside, leaving him weak, dizzy, and in growing pain. Bob, upon hearing of the incident, rushed to Dot's diner. There, Glitch's diagnostics confirmed their worst fear. Unless removed quickly, the command would effectively reformat Frisket's stomach, wiping out his internal systems and likely ending his life. The situation turned desperate. Meanwhile, Megabyte had not given up on his prize. Determined to retrieve the command, he switched tactics and kidnapped Enzo, knowing full well that Frisket would never abandon his best friend. The villain brought Enzo to the towering fortress of the Silicon Tor and broadcast his ultimatum. Within hours, Frisket, driven by instinct and loyalty, followed Enzo's scent trail right into Megabyte's domain. Inside, Herr Doctor and a team of viral binomes wasted no time. Frisket was strapped to an operating table under harsh, flickering lights, surrounded by surgical implements and mechanical arms poised to extract the command by force. Enzo, though terrified, refused to remain helpless. Drawing on every trick he knew, he used his trusty yo-yo and an inflatable raft gun hidden in his pocket to create enough distraction and chaos to free Frisket from his restraints. Together, the boy and his dog turned the Tor into a scene of disorder. In the confusion, Enzo managed to cut power to the operating chamber, plunging the place into darkness. Viral binomes scrambled while alarms blared, and Megabyte's furious roars echoed through the steel halls. Enzo and Frisket seized their moment, racing through corridors until they found an abandoned ABC, an access bus conveyor vehicle. With Enzo at the controls and Frisket by his side, they sped away from the tour. Back in safety, Frisket finally expelled the unformat command, recovering swiftly. Megabyte's plans lay in ruins once again. As Enzo and Frisket returned to Dot's diner, weary but triumphant, Bob and Dot welcomed them with relief and quiet celebration, grateful that loyalty and courage had prevailed yet again in the face of viral darkness. Episode 7. The Crimson Bonhomme. It was an unusually peaceful morning in Mainframe's Kits sector. Dock workers moved lazily through their routines under the early system glow, unaware of the chaos about to descend. Without warning, sails rose on the horizon. The Saucy Mare, a pirate ship infamous throughout the net, slid into port with silent precision. At its helm stood Captain Gavin Capacitor, the Crimson Bonhomme himself, flanked by his loyal crew. Within minutes, the docks were in disarray. The pirates ransacked warehouses, file-locking binomes and numerals where they stood, leaving them frozen mid-task. Their loot piled high as they worked with mechanical efficiency, showing no mercy to anyone who crossed their path. Elsewhere, Bob was completely oblivious to the invasion. In his cluttered garage, he tinkered with an old circuit engine, headphones blasting music so loud he couldn't hear the distant shouts outside. So while he adjusted Glitch's calibration settings, the pirates slipped in unnoticed. They took his prized car, then, realizing Glitch's true value, seized the key tool too. By the time Bob turned around, it was too late. The Crimson Bonhomme, recognizing a Guardian's worth, captured Bob and threw him into the brig aboard the Saucy Mare before steering the ship towards an open portal leading to the vast energy sea. Back at the principal office, Fong swiftly alerted Dot and Enzo to Bob's capture. Without hesitation, they commandeered Mr. Mitchell's sleek speed yacht, tearing away from port with Frisket barking at the prow, determined to rescue their friend. Meanwhile, locked in the dark belly of the Saucy Mare, Bob refused to remain idle. Using fragments of wire and his Guardian training, he broke free of his cell and sabotaged the pirate ship's power systems. Lights flickered and engines whined, slowing the Saucy Mare just enough for Dot to catch up. Dot wasted no time. She and Enzo boarded the listing vessel, only for Frisket and Bob to be swiftly file-locked by pirate sentries. Undeterred, Dot assessed the situation and realized brute force would get them nowhere. Turning her attention to Mr. Christopher, the Crimson Bonhomme's meticulous accountant, she deftly began negotiating. Dot outlined a vision of legitimate trade routes, untapped markets, and stable profits far beyond the unpredictable gains of piracy. Her strategic mind dismantled the pirate business model piece by piece. Overwhelmed by Dot's logical dismantling of his livelihood, and enticed by the promise of safer, more lucrative ventures, Capacitor agreed to her proposal. The Saucy Mare turned back towards port, releasing the dock workers and restoring every stolen item. Though Bob remained slightly baffled by Dot's ability to turn a pirate into a business partner, he felt a quiet pride as they sailed home. That day, it wasn't force or flashy tech that saved Mainframe, it was Dot's unwavering intellect and unbreakable resolve.
I am helping to make your boots go faster.
Episode 8. Enzo the Smart. Enzo always wanted to keep up with Bob and Dot. During a game of Rampart-style bombardment, he tried to prove his worth by building an elaborate cannonball launching contraption. In his mind, complexity equaled brilliance. But when his over-engineered plan collapsed under its own weight, Bob's simpler, smarter tactic secured victory instead. Enzo's confidence plummeted. No matter how hard he tried, it felt like he was always a step behind them. Frustrated and determined to bridge the gap quickly, Enzo approached Fong for help. He didn't want the slow, grueling process of study and practice. He wanted a quick fix, something to make him smarter right away. Fong, ever the wise mentor, proposed a game to test Enzo's current skills. Unsurprisingly, Enzo lost, confirming his fears. Sensing his desperation, Fong led him to Mainframe's read-only room, a place where data flowed freely, offering knowledge to anyone willing to immerse themselves in it. But patience was not Enzo's strength. He scanned line after line of data, restless and dissatisfied with the gradual absorption of knowledge. That's when he stumbled upon the clock speed room. A surge of excitement overtook him. If he couldn't read fast enough, why not simply increase his processing speed? With trembling hands, Enzo adjusted the controls to double his clock speed, imagining how impressed Bob and Dot would be with his brilliance. At first it felt like his plan had worked. His thoughts were clearer, his memory sharper. But then he looked around. Mainframe had slowed to a crawl. Its residents spoke in distorted, basic-like gibberish, their vibrant appearances reduced to awkward, pixelated forms. Bob and Dot, too, were trapped in this 8-bit caricature state, mumbling nonsense as they shuffled around like old sprites from a retro arcade game. Before Enzo could fix anything, a GameCube descended over the city. Inside was an Olympic-style video athlete match, and with everyone's intelligence dulled, Enzo was forced into the role of coach for his team. His attempts to direct them were useless. They fumbled basic moves, lost track of objectives, and misunderstood every command. Desperate to salvage Mainframe's fate, Enzo stepped into the arena himself, entering the Eliminator event as their only hope. Ironically, it was his dim-witted teammates, now on the user's side, who helped him. Their uncoordinated chaos distracted the user long enough for Enzo to clinch victory. As the GameCube lifted and Mainframe's systems stabilized, Enzo raced back to the clock speed room and reset the controls, restoring everyone to normal. In the quiet aftermath, Enzo reflected on his reckless shortcut. He realized true growth couldn't be rushed or engineered overnight. Learning took time, mistakes, and humility, lessons he vowed to honor from that day forward.
Big time.
Go for the chalice!
Episode 9. Wizards, Warriors, and a word from our sponsor. What started as an ordinary day in Mainframe quickly turned into an unexpected quest. Bob, Dot, Enzo, and the endlessly verbose Mike, the TV suddenly found themselves trapped inside a drop-in role-playing GameCube titled A Dungeon Deep. ReBoot energy washed over them, transforming them into medieval archetypes. Bob emerged as a nimble rogue, Dot as a formidable wizard, Enzo as an elf archer brimming with youthful excitement, and Mike, somewhat hilariously, became a towering, broad-shouldered warrior. Immediately, teamwork proved to be their greatest challenge. Bob and Dot bickered over tactics, Enzo flitted between distraction and determination, and Mike, completely absorbed in his new persona, spouted endless streams of infomercials, movie quotes, and dramatic one-liners, much to everyone's growing annoyance. As they navigated each ascending dungeon level, the challenges became more complex. Puzzles blocked their way, riddles demanded creative solutions, such as the cryptic chalice clue, one in all in one, and traps threatened to undo their progress at every turn. Shadow form enemies lurked behind stone pillars and within darkened corridors, forcing the group to fight in chaotic unison despite their clashing styles. Mike's contributions initially seemed more hindrance than help, his loud commentary echoing through the cavernous rooms, often alerting enemies to their location. But deep into the dungeon, as a shape-shifting shadow beast stalked them in a chamber lit by a cursed candle, it was Mike who made the difference. With a single decisive act, he snuffed out the candle's flame, banishing the creature into darkness and saving the team from near defeat. For the first time, his boisterous confidence felt less like noise and more like bravery. Finally, the group reached the dungeon's heart, a vaulted chamber bathed in flickering torchlight, where each faced their greatest trial. Before them stood dark reflections of themselves, mirroring their flaws, fears, and insecurities. Bob faced his self-doubt, Dot her need for control, and Enzo his feelings of inadequacy. One by one, they defeated their shadows in single combat, their confidence and unity growing with each victory. Just as the user's team closed in on the gleaming chalice prize, Mike, fully embracing his warrior identity, charged forward with uncharacteristic focus and seized it in the nick of time. The GameCube dissolved around them, returning them to Mainframe's bright streets. Later, at Dot's diner, The group gathered to catch their breath, offering apologies to Mike for underestimating him. In typical Mike fashion, he accepted their praise with theatrical flair, cutting off their sentiments mid-sentence with a sudden self-imposed commercial break, his screen flickering to static as he silenced them temporarily. Their day ended not only in triumph, but with laughter, proving that sometimes even the loudest voice has its own unexpected worth.
Mechanical accident.
Maybe later, mister.
Episode 10, The Great Brain Robbery. Megabyte was never short on cunning schemes, and this time his plan targeted Mainframe's most vital secrets. He hired Mouse, a skilled and enigmatic hacker sprite, to infiltrate Bob's mind and extract the supercomputer access codes. Their approach was meticulous. Using a data compression command, they shrank an ABC vehicle down to microscopic size and concealed it inside a quantum shake destined for Bob. But as fate would have it, Enzo got there first. Thirsty, after chasing Frisket through Dot's diner, he grabbed Bob's shake without a second thought and downed it in one gulp. The compressed submersible carrying Mouse, Hack, and Slash found itself inside Enzo instead, navigating the bright and chaotic corridors of a child's neural network. Soon, Enzo's behavior grew strange. He babbled incoherently, stumbled over his own feet, and giggled at nothing. Alarmed, Bob and Dot rushed him to Fong, who after a quick diagnostic scan revealed the truth. Tiny intruders were roaming inside Enzo's brain, manipulating his neural pathways. Determined to save Enzo, Bob volunteered to counter the threat. Shrinking down with Glitch's help, he was injected into Enzo's ear canal, entering the surreal, data-lit world of Enzo's inner mind. There, he navigated shimmering memory streams, following traces of Hack and Slash's clumsy disruptions. Meanwhile, Megabyte's ambitions expanded. Realizing the codes were inaccessible, he ordered Mouse to override Enzo's motor controls instead. Under her forced guidance, Enzo began marching mechanically toward the core, effectively turning him into an unwitting battering ram to breach Mainframe's central systems. Inside, Bob confronted Hack and Slash, outsmarting their brute force with stealth and precision. Soon, he encountered Mouse, who seemed less like a villain and more like a professional fulfilling a contract. Their brief reunion revealed hints of shared history and mutual respect. As Bob pieced together Megabyte's true plan, Mouse realized she had been manipulated all along. Choosing integrity over obligation, Mouse sabotaged the submersible's control unit, freeing Enzo's willpower. Regaining his senses, Enzo felt a sudden tickle in his nose. The failing compression field triggered an explosive sneeze, launching the miniature vehicle, Mouse, Hack, and Slash out into the open with a splatter of quantum shake remnants. Back in the diner, Bob and Dot tended to a dazed but relieved Enzo. Dot's relief was tinged with jealousy as Mouse disappeared before she could confront her, leaving behind only her distinctive insignia as a silent farewell. This episode, which is a parody of The Fantastic Voyage, ended with a quick reminder that bravery, quick thinking, and moral choice could overcome even Megabyte's most insidious plots. Episode 11, Talent Night. It was Enzo's birthday, and Dot had spent weeks planning the perfect surprise. This year, she was organizing a talent show right in the parking lot of Dot's diner. Under a bright banner reading, "Happy Birthday, Enzo," auditions were underway. Acts ranged from acrobatic gnomes forming precarious pyramids to Fong crooning a half-forgotten, off-key rendition of Unforgettable. Standing near the stage, Emma C., the censor, judged each act with icy precision, dismissing most performances without hesitation. Meanwhile, Bob had been entrusted with keeping Enzo away from the diner until everything was ready. The two spent their morning playing games across Mainframe, racing hoverboards and tossing energy discs until Enzo's laughter echoed through the sectors. But as afternoon edged towards evening, Enzo began to grow suspicious of Bob's elaborate stalling. Back at the diner, Dot was nearing her wit's end. Viral spies sent by Megabyte slithered unseen between props and curtains. Megabyte, having heard of the celebration and feeling slighted at not being invited, had dispatched them to gather intel. Their presence resulted in one of the most bizarre audition lineups. a viral spy attempting breakdancing before collapsing into a sparking heap, and a Bonhomme calling himself Johnny O. Bonhomme, telling binary-coded jokes that no one understood. Fong fussed with the stage lights, while Emma C. rejected another contortionist Bonhomme, declaring it vulgar and unmarketable. Despite the chaos, Dot pressed on, determined to create something unforgettable for her little brother. Then, as Bob tried to lure Enzo away with another disc game, Enzo caught sight of balloons floating above the diner. Curiosity overtook him. He slipped from Bob's side and ran towards the parking lot. Just as he burst through the crowd, Dot gestured to the lighting crew. Sparkling code rained down on Enzo, upgrading him from 01 to 10. The crowd erupted in cheers, his cheeks flushed bright green with surprise. Dot took the stage, sequins glittering under the neon rig, and launched into a powerful rendition of Your Alphanumeric. Her voice soared, silencing even Emma C., who dabbed away a tear while pretending not to care. Bob watched, beaming, as Enzo stood frozen with awe at his sister's performance. Before the applause died down, an Elvis-themed Bonhomme strutted forward, guitar in hand, but the stage lights flickered violently. A coffin-like case crashed open, revealing Megabyte, draped in dark metallic armor and holding a lime green electric guitar. He towered over the stage, flanked by booming speakers, and issued a silent challenge. Bob stepped forward, summoning Glitch's BFG guitar. Sparks flew as their riffs clashed in a roaring rock duel. Strings bent under the force of their shredding, rippling energy waves through the cheering crowd. In the end, Megabyte lowered his guitar with grudging admiration, handing it to Enzo as a birthday gift before vanishing into the shadows, triumphant in his own way.
You there! Look!
Episode 12, Identity Crisis, Part 1. The day began with a combat demonstration. Bob and Enzo faced off against a clumsy new user. It was a basic training run, but Bob used it to teach Enzo essential strategies. As the user lumbered forward in a bulky tank, Bob calmly guided Enzo's aim. One precise rocket launcher, strike later, the tank exploded in a harmless burst of pixels, and the game ended in victory. Enzo beamed with pride, while Bob ruffled his hair, quietly pleased with his progress. Back at Dot's diner, however, peace felt brittle. Dot found herself plagued by unsettling visions, fleeting images of viral Bonhommes wandering her diner, customers morphing into grotesque viral shapes, and reality twisting at the edges of her sight. Each hallucination left her rattled, gripping a countertop to steady herself. Something deeper was interfering with her perception, gnawing at her confidence. Later that cycle, she and Bob traveled into Geedy Prime's subsector 1000, a sector choked under Megabyte's iron grip. Dot was there to deliver a speech of hope, calling for freedom from viral oppression. Under harsh spotlights and guarded by local resistance, she collected the citizens' PIDs, personal ID codes, intending to register them under Mainframe's system to sever Megabyte's control. As her speech ended and the Bonhommes lined up with tentative hope, Hack and Slash crashed through the gathering. Panic erupted. Bob grabbed Dot's arm and pulled her back as local spokesperson Cyrus urged everyone to scatter. The trio fled into narrow, dimly lit utility tunnels. Dot ran with the PID disc clutched to her chest, her breath ragged, boots clanging against metal grates. Halfway through, Hack and Slash caught up. In the confusion, Cyrus was seized, but Dot and Bob managed to slip into an underground hangar. There, they hijacked an idle ABC vehicle and roared out of the sector. Speeding along the deserted road towards Mainframe's border, Dot felt her hands tremble on the controls. Another hallucination seized her. Megabyte's shadow looming over the landscape, the world glitching and tearing. She blinked it away, heart hammering. Their vid window crackled to life. Megabyte appeared, smug and triumphant. Dot's stomach sank as he revealed the PID file was already in his possession. In Geedy Prime, Cyrus stood beside him, rewarded for betraying his own people. Before Bob and Dot could regroup, the sky darkened above them. A GameCube descended with a low, menacing hum, enclosing them in pulsating purple light. They were dropped into the funhouse, a notorious and deadly game known for its disorienting illusions, traps, and warped rules. Dot steadied herself, swallowing her fear, while Bob readied Glitch, knowing survival here would take every skill they had.
Must eject, or he'll destroy us all!
Episode 13, Identity Crisis, Part 2. The cliffhanger left Dot and Bob trapped within the notorious Funhouse game, plunged into a world of warped colors and unsettling illusions. Immediately, they were faced with surreal threats. Cream pies exploding like grenades, giant bowling balls hurtling down distorted lanes, and endless mirrored doors reflecting infinite versions of themselves. Every step felt precarious, every turn concealing new hazards. Dot moved with focused determination, but the game's twisted logic wore her down. At a critical moment, she faltered, collapsing to her knees as failure triggered a horrifying vision. The funhouse dissolved around her, replaced by a chilling future mainframe, now transformed into Megaframe. Under Megabyte's reign, citizens shuffled under heavy skies, branded with UPC-style barcodes across their foreheads. Fong stood silent and powerless. Enzo, no longer her spirited little brother, coldly disowned her before disappearing into Megabyte's army. The bleakest blow came when Dot saw Bob, reduced to a null, writhing helplessly in a containment jar. The despair crushed her, leaving her shaking and breathless. She could not watch her world perish like this. Summoning every shred of willpower, Dot rebooted within the game. She rose to her feet, her avatar gleaming with renewed resolve. Together, she and Bob pressed deeper into the funhouse, braving spinning mirrors, malicious carnival games, collapsing floors, and raining bowling balls. The final challenge loomed. The bell at the funhouse's center, guarded by a grotesque clown-like entity. Dodging its attacks and relentless cream pies, Dot seized the opportunity to strike the bell with a thundering clang, forcing a user loses outcome. With the game conquered, they were ejected back into mainframe, landing hard on the diner's roof. As Dot caught her breath, Fong appeared via vid window, his eyes filled with cautious pride. He revealed that what she had experienced was no ordinary hallucination. It was a vision induced by the reality distortion engine. Steeled by this revelation, Dot wasted no time. She and Bob raced towards Giddy Prime aboard a stolen ABC, clouds of dust trailing behind them. Breaking into Megabyte's stronghold, Dot hacked swiftly through layers of viral security, her fingers flying across the control panels. At last, she retrieved the stolen PID files. As alarms blared, she transmitted them to the principal office, each line of code liberating another oppressed citizen. Megabyte's rage exploded across his command chamber. He turned on Cyrus, punishing him for his failure. But far away, the sector's skies brightened as viral banners crumbled. Citizens cheered under the new dawn, celebrating their freedom and Dot's unbreakable spirit. It was her victory, etched forever into Mainframe's memory.
Very distortion of reality.
No!
Season 2, 1995 to 1996. Episode 1, Infected. Megabyte infiltrates Mainframe under the guise of a highly anticipated upgrade canister. As news spreads of the incoming system-wide upgrade, anticipation runs high across the city. When the installation window arrives, the entire system initiates a shutdown to integrate the supposed new software. Bob, Dot, and Fong carefully bring the upgrade canister into the principal office, believing it will enhance Mainframe's defenses. But the moment the canister opens, their hopes shatter. It's not software inside, but Megabyte himself. Wasting no time, Megabyte lunges at Fong, draining his energy with ruthless precision. The aged command. Com collapses, unable to resist, as Megabyte seizes the crucial entry codes to Mainframe's core control chamber. With these codes, the virus gains the power to manipulate the city's infrastructure at will, sending shockwaves of panic through Bob and Dot. Realizing the stakes, Dot arms herself in a powerful exosuit, its mechanical limbs bristling with weapons and enhanced strength. Meanwhile, Bob desperately works to recharge Glitch, his key tool to stand a chance against Megabyte. As chaos erupts, Megabyte traps the trio within the principal office and initiates an erase command. Instantly, hexagonal waves of nullification ripple outward, systematically erasing sprites, binomes, and entire city sectors. Within moments, Mainframe begins to collapse into silent devastation. Clad in her exosuit, Dot confronts Megabyte directly. Her towering mechanical armor evokes the iconic power loader from Aliens, embodying her determination and tactical brilliance. But Megabyte is relentless. With cunning strength, he subverts the suit's defenses, ripping control from Dot's grasp. He seizes Bob, holding him hostage to force Dot's compliance. As Dot falters, Fong's holographic projection flickers to life, his consciousness surviving despite his drained body. He advises Bob to exploit Megabyte's single greatest flaw, his greed. Knowing Megabyte craves access to the supercomputer above all else, Bob formulates a desperate gamble. When Megabyte demands a portal to the supercomputer, Bob seemingly complies, opening what appears to be a gateway. Blinded by victory, Megabyte steps forward, only to realize too late that Bob has tricked him. Instead of a supercomputer portal, he finds himself trapped within a virus deletion chamber disguised as an escape route. Enraged at being outsmarted, Megabyte initiates a catastrophic self-destruct sequence. But Bob acts swiftly, ejecting the deletion chamber from the principal office before it detonates. The chamber crashes into the wastelands beyond Silicon Tor, the blast contained far from Mainframe's heart. As power returns across the city and citizens recover, Fong is rebooted, weakened, but alive. Though Mainframe survives the attack, the scars remain, and the threat of Megabyte's return looms ever larger in their uncertain future. Episode 2. High Code. A menacing code. Master known as Lens, feared across systems as the Reaper, descends into Mainframe's subsphere with a single mission: to find and challenge the legendary Codemaster Talon. Mainframe's citizens remain unaware of Lens's true target as he begins his ruthless hunt. Armed with his formidable Gibson coil pike, Lens arrives at the principal office, swiftly trapping Fong in a time lock that freezes him mid-thought. He then locks down Glitch, Bob's key tool, rendering Bob almost powerless against him. As Lens tears through sectors and destabilizes system functions to flush out his target, he leaves a trail of fear and confusion. Meanwhile, Enzo, exploring Old Man Pearson's ramshackle data dump, discovers a strange crystalline rod half buried among obsolete parts. Curious about its make, he brings it to Pearson, who stiffens upon seeing it, but offers no explanation. Though Pearson silently denies knowing anything, Enzo begins to suspect that the old scavenger might be more than he appears. Bob and Dot urgently strategize a counterattack. Realizing they cannot defeat Lens directly, Bob formulates a dangerous plan: lure Lens into an incoming GameCube and deliberately lose. His logic is simple but grim. If both he and Lens were nullified within the game, Mainframe would be rid of the threat, albeit at the cost of Bob's own life. However, Enzo, worried for Bob, secretly enters the game as well. Bob's plan collapses in an instant. He cannot sacrifice himself if Enzo's life is also at stake. Forced to abandon his original idea, Bob shifts tactics and focuses on winning the Wild West-themed game. Together, he and Enzo overcome the user's challenges, narrowly preventing the game from nullifying them both. Yet instead of accepting Lens's challenge, Pearson raises his coil pike and snaps it in two, renouncing his Codemaster title and any further bloodshed. Lens, stunned by Talon's humility and moved by the unwavering loyalty displayed by Bob, Dot, and Enzo, makes his choice. He lifts Glitch's lock and spares Mainframe from further destruction, departing in silence. As the city resumes its slow recovery, Pearson trudges back to his data dump, brusquely brushing off everyone's concern, grumbling about foolish sentimentality. Episode 3. When Games Collide. Bob, Dot, and Enzo find themselves pulled into an alien combat game cube set amidst vast ancient ruins. Their avatars reconfigure into sleek, metallic chrome versions of themselves, bristling with high-tech weaponry and combat enhancements. But even with their upgraded forms, the user controlling the game proves overwhelmingly powerful, outmatching their every move. Outside the game, Megabyte puts his latest scheme into motion. He has deployed Hack and Slash to initiate a leech command, a device designed to siphon vast amounts of energy directly from mainframe's grid. As the leech drains power, it fuels Megabyte's true goal: to activate a colossal gateway device reminiscent of a Stargate that will grant him direct access to mainframe's heavily protected archives. Meanwhile, Dot and Fong detect critical power losses rippling across system sectors. Working against the clock, they rush to stabilize the archive's defensive protocols before Megabyte can breach their most guarded data. Elsewhere, Enzo and Frisket stumble upon viral activity deep within the sewer tunnels. But before they can warn anyone, Megabyte's minions ambush and capture them, binding them as hostages to ensure Megabyte's plan proceeds without interference. Back within the alien combat game, the leech's heavy energy drain unexpectedly slows down the game's processing speed. Seizing this narrow window of opportunity, Enzo manages to knock the user's icon out of the game, winning an improbable victory for the system. Yet there is no time to celebrate. Soon after, a second basic combat game cube descends on mainframe. Its sudden arrival coincides with the leech reaching maximum capacity, pushing the city's energy reserves past the brink. Fong scrambles to reroute emergency power and initiate a manual system restart to prevent a catastrophic shutdown. However, in the chaos of these overlapping crises, a malfunction causes a second game, a dinosaur survival cube, to merge atop the active combat game. Inside, the two games fuse into an unpredictable, hazardous environment. Bob finds himself trapped alongside Megabyte within this hybrid battlefield, now populated by robotic dinosaurs, bomber planes, and lethal traps. Despite their bitter enmity, Bob and Megabyte are forced into a reluctant alliance. But outside, Megabyte's forces execute the next phase of his plan. They steal the gateway command from the archives and abduct Enzo, tethering him dangerously close to the active portal at Silicon Tor. As Bob and Dot race to his rescue, mainframe braces for Megabyte's imminent incursion into its deepest secrets. Episode 4: Bad Bob. Megabyte launches a bold assault on mainframe's principal office, determined to siphon its core energy and seize absolute control. As alarms blare and chaos erupts across the system, a GameCube unexpectedly descends, its corrupted code merging disastrously with the principal office itself, styled like a gritty Mad Max Road Warrior wasteland. The cube fuses its harsh desert arena with the sleek halls of the office, trapping Fong and Enzo inside its boundaries. The game's twisted logic transforms Megabyte into a monstrous mechanical juggernaut dubbed the Megatruck, designed to haul the stolen core energy away from mainframe before the game ends. With Fong trapped and the core's survival at stake, Dot quickly assumes command from the diner, coordinating tactical defenses while Bob and Enzo prepare to enter the cube's hazardous terrain. Inside, the game world is a sprawling desert wasteland littered with rusted wreckage, marauding gnomes in spiked vehicles, and violent dust storms that obscure every threat. Bob and Enzo navigate treacherous roads, dodging hostile drivers and flaming barricades as they close in on the Megatruck. Each second counts. If the cube concludes before they reclaim the energy, mainframe's core will vanish along with it, an outcome that could spell doom for their entire system. Dot monitors their progress from her terminal, relaying real-time strategic updates to guide them around traps and towards the moving truck. Fong, confined within the office-turned-desert fortress, uses his limited mobility to keep auxiliary systems stable as the battle rages. As Bob and Enzo engage in high-speed chases across shifting sand dunes and metal bridges, they dodge explosive projectiles and ramming attacks from Megabyte's vehicular minions. The megatruck barrels forward relentlessly, its massive tires crushing anything in its path. Enzo, despite his fear, proves invaluable, scouting risky shortcuts and providing Bob with critical cover during firefights. Finally, the duo reaches the megatruck's towering bulk. Bob clambers aboard, wrestling control systems to override its corrupted command protocols. Megabyte, unwilling to surrender his stolen prize, fights back fiercely within his monstrous vehicle form, but Bob's unbreakable determination prevails. Leveraging Glitch's advanced interface hacks, Bob manages to override the cube's operator, the user, triggering an immediate reset of the game environment. In a blinding flash, the cube dissipates from the principal office, taking its corrupted wasteland with it. Megabyte, stripped of his megatruck form, reverts back to his viral body, humiliated and infuriated as the stolen core energy flows safely back into Mainframe's systems. Thwarted once again, he retreats into the shadows, leaving Bob, Dot, Enzo and Fong to regroup and repair the damage, aware that Megabyte's ambitions remain far from extinguished. Episode 5, Painted Windows. Hexadecimal, ever yearning for artistic recognition, sets her sights on Mainframe as her grand canvas. Hacking into the principal office archives, she corrupts the system paint program, granting herself unchecked creative control. Overnight, Mainframe transforms into a surreal art exhibit under her chaotic hand. The sky shifts to reveal a crudely painted sun, and abstract color palettes wash over buildings and streets alike. Bob notices the bizarre imagery while on patrol and contacts Fong, who, with grave concern, warns him that if a system backup initiates before an UNDO is executed, Hex's changes will become permanent, forever warping Mainframe into her twisted masterpiece. Emboldened by her success, Hex unleashes her full artistic arsenal. Iconic works materialize across the city. The anguished face from the Scream looms over the sector skyline, while Mona Lisa's enigmatic smile emerges on tower walls. Van Gogh's sunflowers bloom across streets, swallowing signs and roads in vivid yellow. Even Megabyte's imposing tower isn't spared. She transforms it into a giant flower pot, complete with jester makeup to humiliate her rival. Amid the spectacle, chaos reigns. Utilities malfunction, power flickers sporadically, and communication grids collapse under corrupted imagery. Worse, Hex captures Fong and his principal office guards, pasting them into her living paintings like static art pieces. Fong's head morphs into a floating green apple, a direct reference to Magritte, rendering him unable to call for help. Bob, determined to stop the escalating destruction, teams up with Mike the TV to track Hex back to her lair in Lost Angles. Their journey is fraught with danger as Scuzzy, Hex's cat, now painted into a giant weaponized beast, prowls the streets to guard her domain. Narrowly evading its attacks, they reach her towering citadel. Inside, Bob crafts a risky distraction. Using a cardboard cutout clone of himself and a faux live interview orchestrated with Mike, he draws Hex's attention away from her controls. Meanwhile, Dot and Enzo navigate a complex labyrinth of corrupted video windows within the archives, racing to locate the master link to the system paint program before the backup finalizes. Finally, Bob reaches the corrupted interface and executes the undo all command. Instantly, the warped world around them dissolves, paintings vanish, and Mainframe resets to its normal state. As reality stabilizes, Bob briefly removes Hex's mask, revealing her true face beneath. Shocked and vulnerable, she falters, overcome by her own trauma. Gently, Bob uses Glitch to restore her mask, allowing her to hide her pain once more. With the city saved, Hex collapses, drained and silent. Bob, knowing she needs comfort despite her destructive ways, leaves Mike behind to keep her company as he returns to restore Mainframe to stability once again.
There's nothing to stop me getting to the treasure!
Episode 6, Andrea. Lonely and frustrated by the lack of peers his age in Mainframe, Enzo finds himself retreating to Al's diner more often. Bob and Dot are always busy with system repairs or defense strategies, leaving him to quietly sip his quantum shake while staring out at the endless digital streets. As much as he idolizes Bob and relies on Dot, neither can fill the emptiness of having no true friend his own age. One ordinary cycle, an unexpected disturbance shatters his gloom. A GameCube crashes directly into Al's diner, its neon edges crackling against the glass as reality shifts into the game world. Enzo's heart races with both fear and hope as he reboots. Suddenly, he's no longer a lonely sprite in a diner. He's the pilot of a sleek submarine navigating an undersea realm brimming with coral forests, glittering fish, and deep shadows. The game's objective is clear: claim the lost treasure of Atlantis before the user does. In this watery domain, Enzo meets Andrea AIA, a young and strikingly resourceful game sprite. She controls her own submarine with fierce precision, battling the user's sub with a confidence and tactical mind that Enzo finds spellbinding. Bob and Dot join the fight too, deploying electric blasts and piranha mines to weaken the user's defenses. But for Enzo, it's Andrea AIA who shines brightest. She's intelligent, brave, and surprisingly kind for someone forged entirely within a game. For the first time, he feels an effortless bond forming, a friendship not overshadowed by age or responsibility. As they maneuver through perilous trenches and dodge automated torpedoes, Enzo learns quickly from her. Together they inch closer to the treasure. But he soon realizes that despite her warmth and humor, Andrea AIA isn't like him at all. She is a game sprite, coded to exist only within this undersea adventure, destined to vanish when the game ends. The thought of losing her gnaws at him with every passing minute. When the final countdown begins and defeat looms, Andrea does something unexpected. She uses her special backup icon, transferring victory to Enzo's team just before the game concludes. He braces himself for her disappearance, feeling the sting of goodbye even before it comes. But as the cube lifts and Mainframe's familiar grid returns, Bob and Dot stare in stunned silence. Andrea AIA materializes beside Enzo, shimmering into reality with a triumphant smile. Unbeknownst to them all, she tethered her code to Enzo's icon, escaping the confines of the game to remain in Mainframe. Her arrival not only marks the debut of a pivotal character in Enzo's life, but also plants the seeds for his emotional growth and a deeper exploration of what it means to truly belong, both within Mainframe and beyond the games. Episode 7, Nullzilla. In a dramatic homage to classic kaiju films, Mainframe is thrown into chaos when a monstrous web creature breaches its reality through Hexadecimal's looking glass. What begins as an ominous ripple soon becomes catastrophic as the creature infects Hexadecimal herself, transforming her into a dark and menacing supervirus. The Nulls, ever drawn to her, swarm in overwhelming numbers, fusing into a colossal entity, Nullzilla. The creature towers over Mainframe's skyline, its body writhing with millions of nulls that slither and screech with every movement. Panic sweeps through the city. Mainframers scatter in terror as entire sectors quake under Nullzilla's crushing limbs. Hexadecimal's lair is swiftly overrun. Mike the TV abandons his broadcast mid-sentence and flees alongside Scuzzy, while even Hack and Slash, usually fearless in their bumbling way, scramble for cover under the looming threat of 2 million nulls acting as one. As destruction spreads, Fong gathers the system's remaining defenders. His solution is as desperate as it is bold. A team of battle droid vehicles, each styled like an insect, and piloted by Mainframe's bravest. Bob, Dot, Enzo, Andrea AIA, Frisket, and even Mike the TV climb aboard their mechanical mantis, beetle, spider, and scorpion mechs. With synchronized precision, the insect bots merge into a towering humanoid mecha, its gleaming armor bracing against Nullzilla's monstrous blows. The clash between mecha and monster rocks Mainframe to its foundations. Buildings topple as Nullzilla lashes out, overwhelming their combined strength. Each pilot gives their all. Dot coordinates tactical strikes. Bob shields the team from corrosive null streams. Frisket gnashes mech jaws at writhing limbs. Yet with every assault, Nullzilla regrows, driven by the infected power of Hexadecimal's corrupted code. Hope seems to fade until Andrea AIA spots a critical weakness. Seizing the moment, she retrieves the legendary Disrupto-Matic from their arsenal. With resolute focus, she channels her energy into a decisive strike. a blinding pulse erupts, piercing Nullzilla's writhing mass and severing the Nulls from their viral tether. The monstrous fusion collapses, dissolving into inert Nulls that scatter harmlessly across the city grid. As the dust settles, Hexadecimal emerges, alive but severely drained, her regal mask cracked and her aura flickering dimly. Her survival offers both relief and foreboding, as no one can guess how her corruption might shape her future actions. Meanwhile, Nibbles, the small web creature that began this disaster, slinks away into the shadows, eventually returning to Megabyte. Unseen by the weary heroes, a mysterious web being merges with Megabyte himself, quietly initiating his transformation into something darker and more powerful. This encounter leaves Mainframe shaken, but it sets the stage for what is to come: the rise of Megabyte's sinister new form and the epic 4-part season finale that will test every alliance and belief they hold. Episode 8, Gigabyte. In the chilling aftermath of Nullzilla, Mainframe barely has time to recover before an even darker threat emerges. The mysterious web creature that once corrupted Hexadecimal now sets its sights on Megabyte. With Hexadecimal still weakened and vulnerable, the creature forces a horrifying merger between the two siblings. From this unholy fusion is born Gigabyte, a towering Class 5 super virus with immeasurable strength and a voracious hunger for energy. Gigabyte's form is nightmarish, pulsing with dark light as arcs of electricity crackle across its massive limbs. Every blast of energy aimed at it is absorbed and converted into more power, leaving Bob and Dot reeling at the futility of their attacks. With each moment, it remains active. Gigabyte grows larger and stronger, draining entire power grids and leeching life force from any sprite foolish enough to stand in its path. Realizing Mainframe cannot withstand such devastation, Fong swiftly orders a system-wide power down to cut Gigabyte off from its energy source. As the city plunges into a dim, flickering gloom, Mainframe's defenders gather their strength for one desperate strategy. Bob, Dot, Enzo, Andrea, Frisket, and Mouse, returning with her trademark confidence and hacking skills, race to create a tear. If they can open a stable dimensional rift, they may be able to split the fused monster back into its original forms. Bob volunteers for the most dangerous task, luring Gigabyte to Floating Point Park, the only location stable enough to contain the tear. As the hulking virus storms through deserted streets towards him, Hack and Slash appear, driven by loyalty and denial. The bumbling henchbots rush Gigabyte, pleading for Megabyte to return to them. For a fleeting moment, their antics distract Gigabyte. But the horror of its true power becomes clear when Hack is effortlessly drained and undone, leaving Slash howling in helpless grief. At the climax of their plan, Mouse and Dot manage to stabilize the tear, its glowing edges vibrating with volatile energy. Gigabyte senses its threat and begins absorbing the rift itself, its power surging dangerously. Bob knows there's only one chance left. Calling on Glitch, he channels its capabilities to stabilize the tear's shifting dimensions. The rift pulses with blinding light, pulling at Gigabyte's massive frame. With a final surge of effort, the tear succeeds. Gigabyte is torn apart, its monstrous body splitting into the original web creature, a disoriented Megabyte, and Hexadecimal, weakened but alive. The threat is temporarily halted, but the damage lingers in every shaken sector and silent street of Mainframe. As the dust settles, there is little relief among the defenders. They know this was only a glimpse of the horrors the web can unleash, and that Megabyte and Hexadecimal's next moves will be more dangerous than ever before. Episode 9, Trust No One. A wave of mysterious disappearances sweeps through Mainframe, rattling its citizens with fear and confusion. One by one, sprites vanish without a trace. First Al's waiter, then others across sectors, until Dot herself goes missing. Her absence strikes at the heart of Mainframe's stability, leaving Bob both anxious and furious as he scrambles to uncover who or what is behind it. With no immediate leads, Bob begins investigating every anomaly in the system. His efforts draw the attention of two newly arrived officials, Fax Modem and Data Nully, parodies of the infamous X-Files agents Mulder and Scully. Their presence adds tension to an already delicate situation as they scrutinize Bob's methods while conducting their own probing, conspiracy-driven inquiry. Suspicion quickly falls upon Mouse. Her elusive movements across the system, combined with her hacker's stealth and cryptic responses, paint her as an obvious suspect in the eyes of Fax Modem and Data Nully. Bob, torn between trust and doubt, struggles to reconcile the Mouse he knows with the possibility that she's involved in something far darker. Amidst this chaos, Mike the TV resurfaces, trembling and disheveled. His frantic broadcast reveals he was attacked by a shadowy web creature that bit him before fleeing into the dark. His trembling voice carries a crucial detail. The creature recoils in bright light, exposing its weakness. Driven by urgency, Bob begins tracking Mouse's signal, determined to confront her before any more lives are lost. His pursuit leads him to an abandoned warehouse on the edge of Mainframe, cloaked in flickering shadows and static. Inside, he finds Mouse mid-operation, frantically disabling containment locks. Suspended from the ceiling in cocoon-like pods are the missing sprites, including Dot, their bodies faintly glowing in the dim warehouse light. Defying Bob's warnings, Mouse completes the overrides and releases the captives. Relief is fleeting, however, as the creature suddenly emerges, lunging from the shadows and ensnaring Mouse in its vicious grip. Bob reacts in an instant, using Glitch to scatter brilliant bursts of light throughout the cavernous structure. The creature shrieks, its grip faltering as it writhes under the illumination's searing force. Bob wastes no time alerting Fong, only to learn that the situation has escalated far beyond Mainframe's borders. Turbo and the Guardian Council classify the creature as a Class M threat, warranting immediate eradication. Their decision is swift and absolute: deploy a bomb-triggered tear to purge the infected system. In a heart-stopping finale, Bob races the ticking device away from populated sectors, pushing himself to the limits. But the bomb detonates mid-flight, opening an enormous, swirling portal to the web above Mainframe. War has come to Mainframe, and there is no turning back. Episode 10. Web World Wars. The skies above Mainframe darken with a looming sense of dread as a massive web portal swirls ominously overhead. For the first time, the threat is not abstract or distant. The web war has come to their doorstep. Bob, Dot, Enzo, Andrea, Frisket, and Mouse, returning with her trademark confidence and hacking skills race to create a tear. Alarms echo through the city as gnomes and sprites evacuate into reinforced shelters, their hurried steps a testament to the rising fear pulsing through every sector. Inside the war room, Bob, Dot, Enzo, Andrea, Fong, and the CPU chief work tirelessly to coordinate defenses. Every flickering screen shows the same terrifying image: the swirling vortex of the portal, growing larger and more unstable by the second. Enzo and Andrea are dispatched to man the anti-aircraft guns stationed on the city's perimeter. Their young faces are set with steely determination as they grip the heavy controls, silently praying their firepower will be enough. Dot and Mouse, equally resolute, oversee weapon preparations in the armory. Metal crates slam shut as rows of laser rifles and energy grenades are loaded for distribution. Meanwhile, Megabyte readies his own devastating countermeasure: the hardware, an enormous energy cannon mounted atop an armored ABC unit, designed to target and seal the portal. In a tense moral standoff, Bob forces Fong to collaborate with Megabyte, despite Fong's deep ethical objections. Time is slipping away, and Bob knows they need Megabyte's resources to survive. Fong's expression is etched with anguish as critical software downloads into the hardware system under his reluctant supervision. Hexadecimal, ever unpredictable, powers the cannon with her chaotic energy, her mask flickering wildly under the strain. The portal erupts, disgorging web probes and spores into Mainframe's sky. They descend like swarms of locusts, tearing through defenses and inflicting heavy losses. ABC units rally under Megabyte's command, his viral forces joining the fight with cold efficiency. Allies and enemies alike fire side by side, united only by necessity. Amid the chaos, Bob takes a quiet moment with Enzo. Placing his hand on the boy's shoulder, he bestows upon him a field commission as a Guardian cadet. Enzo's icon upgrades before his eyes, shifting to the Guardian insignia as his uniform transforms to match. It is a powerful coming-of-age moment, the culmination of every lesson Bob ever taught him. As the hardware powers up for its final blast to seal the portal, Megabyte betrays them all. With calculated cruelty, he turns on Bob, crushing Glitch under his heel and launching Bob, helpless, into the swirling abyss alongside a missile. In the stunned silence that follows, the portal pulses with eerie light, leaving only absence where Bob once stood. In the closing moments, grief tightens around Enzo's chest like iron, but he lifts his head with defiance. Clad in his new Guardian uniform, he vows to protect Mainframe in Bob's stead. Season 3, 1997-1998. Episode 1, To Mend and Defend. With Bob gone and Mainframe teetering on the edge, the city comes under relentless attack as Megabyte and Hexadecimal launch a full-scale viral siege. With chaos mounting, the responsibility of defense falls to Dot, now acting as Command.com, alongside Fong, Mouse, Enzo, and the CPU fleet. In a bold countermeasure, Dot orchestrates a strategic ambush. 9 CPU ships fly in a tight single-file formation down Vector 138, drawing Megabyte's armored binomes into a deadly crossfire. The maneuver is a success. Enemy forces are devastated, but the threat escalates when Hexadecimal targets the principal office's shield core. Catastrophe seems imminent, until Mouse quickly reroutes core energy to raise a defensive wall just in time. Her quick thinking prevents total system collapse. Meanwhile, Enzo and Andrea, bound by Guardian protocols, are pulled into a sinister GameCube titled Malicious Corpses, a chilling homage to Evil Dead 2. Inside, they find themselves trapped in a fog-drenched cemetery, crawling with twisted transformations. Frisket mutates into a monstrous hellhound. Enzo morphs into a zombified version of Michael Jackson from Thriller, while Dot appears as a gothic Elvira-like figure, her tightly laced gown needing to be torn before she can fight. Together, the team must recover the Manual of Mortality while eluding a chainsaw-wielding user avatar. Survival hinges on making it until dawn. The climax is a tense scramble. With seconds to spare, they trap the user and proclaim "Undead Before Dawn," restoring control of the GameCube and narrowly escaping deletion. Back in Mainframe, Dot is finally reunited with Cecil, rescued from the rubble of the destroyed diner. The reunion brings a moment of emotional relief amid the turmoil. Mouse's ingenuity, Enzo's growing Guardian instincts, and the resilience of the Mainframe defenders shine through as they prepare for whatever comes next. Episode 2, Between a Raccoon and a Hard Place. Mainframe is still staggering under the weight of Megabyte and Hexadecimal's viral onslaught when Dot and Fong devise a bold strategy to reignite hope. With Megabyte's propaganda spreading fear and doubt, Fong suggests a risky but symbolic move. Enzo, the city's young guardian, must face a game alone. The goal is simple yet powerful, to show Mainframe that resistance is still possible. Under heavy surveillance from Megabyte's ABCs, Dot and Enzo approach a descending GameCube. To avoid detection, they stage a clever diversion using cardboard cutouts, allowing the real Enzo and Andrea to slip inside unnoticed. But the plan hits a snag. Andrea's icon remains inside the system, forcing her to stay in the game longer than expected. Inside, Enzo reboots into a cartoonish, shotgun-toting hunter with an exaggerated Elmer Fudd-style accent. The game's world is a chaotic mashup of Wild West and classic arcade tropes, centered around Rocky the Rabid Raccoon, a manic creature who races through desert landscapes, underground subways, and coin-littered bonus levels. Enzo and Andrea pursue him across zones packed with slapstick antics. Rowdy hillbilly binomes, undead mole-themed whack-a-mole games, raccoon hunting madness, and a cheeky flasher bonhomme, all playing out in the spirit of Looney Tunes absurdity. Back in mainframe, Dot anxiously monitors their progress, while Fong mobilizes the CPU fleet, ready for any escalation. Inside the game, Enzo finds an unexpected moment of clarity. Facing the user's chaos, he calls on the other sprites and bonhommes to stand firm. With confidence beyond his years, he publicly confronts the ABCs and defies the odds, becoming not just a player, but a symbol. As the game ends, Enzo's courage resonates far beyond the cube. Mainframe's citizens, battered and unsure, feel the stirrings of renewed resistance. Dot sees it in their eyes. The fight isn't over. Thanks to one brave guardian, a flicker of hope has returned. Episode 3, Firewall. The episode opens mid-game with a skiing Santa-style user hurtling down icy slopes. Rebooted as snowmen, Enzo and Andrea work together to stop him. Thinking fast, Enzo crafts a makeshift ice ramp that launches Santa's balloon into the air, then bursts it, sending the user plummeting and ending the game in a snowy crash. From there, the tone shifts dramatically into a stylized, Bond-themed sequence, complete with fiery animations and classic 007-inspired visuals. But the excitement fades quickly. Outside the GameCube, Megabyte ambushes the pair. He chokes Enzo and issues a chilling warning. The principal office may be shielded, but the rest of mainframe is wide open. Shaken and bruised, Enzo begins to question his worth as a guardian, but support comes swiftly. Andrea, Mouse, Fong, and tech specialist Hugh Branch, a gadget-savvy sprite reminiscent of Q, reveal a bold new plan, an inverted firewall. If successful, it will encase G Prime in a blazing energy barrier, isolating Megabyte and halting his viral spread. Their plan hinges on one more GameCube, a wild, toy-themed race that plays like a blend of Wacky Races and Pixar. Rebooting in full tuxedo flair, Enzo takes on the role of a smooth Bond-like racer. Cyrus and Frisket appear as slapstick rivals, parodying Dick Dastardly and Muttley. What follows is chaos, loop-de-loops, trap-laden shortcuts, and a high-speed dash through Toy Town absurdity. In the end, Enzo outsmarts the user by jamming their escape plane with a teddy bear, forcing a crash and winning the game. Back in mainframe, Mouse activates a network of energy senders spread throughout the city. At Enzo's signal, shield energy surges through them, triggering the firewall. G Prime erupts in flame, Megabyte and Hexadecimal trapped within. Hex cackles at the irony, the captor now caged. As the flames rise, so does Enzo. No longer the uncertain child, he stands proud, recognized at last as a true guardian. With Megabyte confined and morale soaring, mainframe takes a vital step forward in its ongoing fight for survival. Episode 4, Game Over. After breaching the newly established inverted firewall, Megabyte and Hexadecimal plunge mainframe into yet another crisis. This time it arrives in the form of a high-stakes combat game, Immortal Conflict, a brutal parody of Mortal Kombat. Only Enzo, Andrea and Frisket are close enough to enter before it locks down. At the principal office, Dot watches the unfolding events with quiet dread, knowing this is Enzo's battle to fight, and possibly the one that decides mainframe's future. Inside the game, a roster of fierce, stylized warrior avatars stands ready for selection, each more intimidating than the last. The user appears as Zaytan, a horned, demon-like fighter with overwhelming power and savage speed. In the early rounds, Zaytan cuts through opponents effortlessly, winning the first two fights with barely a scratch. Enzo, desperate to turn the tide, manages to reboot into a yellow-clad ninja, clearly inspired by Scorpion. He scrapes out a narrow win in the first round using speed and strategy, but the second round is brutal. Zaytan overwhelms him, and in a devastating finishing move, Enzo loses an eye, his body broken, his strength failing. Knowing the final round will determine everything, Andrea and Frisket reboot and rush to his aid, but the game is already counting down. They're too late. The screen flashes the final blow. Game over, user wins. Enzo is gone, his icon nullified, his data seemingly erased. Back in mainframe, Dot stares in disbelief before crumpling under the weight of grief. Her little brother, the guardian she believed in, appears to be lost. Across the system, silence falls. Megabyte, meanwhile, revels in the chaos, declaring a twisted victory. The episode closes on that haunting note, Enzo's apparent death, sending a shockwave through mainframe. What began as a mission of hope has ended in heartbreak. For the city and its citizens, the loss is more than personal. It's a blow to the spirit of resistance. The season shifts into darker territory, leaving viewers and sprites alike to question what comes next. Episode 5, Icons. After the devastating loss in Game Over, Enzo, now going by Matrix, emerges from a GameCube alongside Andrea and Frisket into an unfamiliar and war-torn system far removed from mainframe. Time inside the games has passed differently, aging them both and forging them into hardened warriors. Matrix, with his enhanced targeting eye and imposing demeanor, radiates the edge of a battle-worn antivirus. Andrea remains just as capable, but carries a calmer, more grounded energy, a steady counterbalance to Matrix's intensity. The system they land in is desolate and crumbling, caught in the throes of a binary war. Shattered code, collapsed data structures, and terrified gnomes fill the ruins. When Matrix and Andrea appear, they're mistaken for hostile intruders. Matrix's imposing presence only deepens the fear, his aggressive stance unsettling the desperate sprites. Tension threatens to erupt, but Andrea steps in, calm, approachable, and sincere, convincing the frightened gnomes they mean no harm. It's a small but vital victory. Trust, cautiously given, begins to grow. Before they can rest, another GameCube descends. This one drops them into a violent, space-themed arena. Rebooting into alien avatars, Matrix and Andrea find themselves facing a heavily armed, user-controlled shuttle. The battle is brutal and fast-paced, with laser fire streaking across the void. Matrix, drawing on his sharpened skill set and enhanced targeting eye, locks on and disables the user's ship with precision. The game ends in their favor, allowing them to continue their journey through the net. As the cube dissipates, the trio surveys the ravaged world they've left behind. Matrix may be shaped by loss, but he's fueled by resolve. Andrea, ever steady, walks beside him not just as a partner, but as his compass. Together, with Frisket loyally at their side, they begin their long road through the unknown, driven by the hope of returning home and the strength they've found in each other. The net arc has begun.
Enough!
Episode 6, Where No Sprite Has Gone Before. Matrix, Andrea and Frisket arrive in a strikingly futuristic system, clean, luminous, and seemingly advanced. But beneath the polished surface, chaos simmers. The realm is under siege by spectrals, mysterious floating energy orbs that drift through the data streams, their presence feared and misunderstood. Not long after arriving, the trio is approached by a group of superhero-like defenders led by Robert Cursor, a commanding figure whose voice and mannerisms strongly remind Matrix of Bob. His team includes the logical Pixel, powerhouse Giga Girl, Elastic Email, and the gruff, battle-hardened Powerlock. Cursor's crew detains the Spectrals, claiming they're the source of the system's instability and accusing the local sprites of abandoning their responsibilities. Matrix, still haunted by Bob's absence and eager for something familiar, gravitates toward Cursor's certainty. Andrea, however, is skeptical. She sees fear driving the team's actions and questions their judgment. When she discovers the Spectrals are trying to heal the system, not harm it, she takes a stand, freeing them and defending their right to exist. The team is soon faced with undeniable proof of deeper trouble. Massive system tears erupt, releasing corrupted data and triggering cascading failures. While Andrea works alongside the Spectrals to mend the damage, Matrix and Cursor investigate its source. Their search reveals an unsettling truth, a cloaked virus embedded among the supposed heroes. Powerlock, once trusted, is unmasked as the saboteur. The system stabilizes, and the false narrative around the Spectrals begins to unravel. In the aftermath, Matrix and Andrea come back together, both changed, both stronger for the path they chose. Trust rebuilt, they stand united as a new GameCube descends. Before parting ways, Cursor, now aware of his own blind spots, pledges to protect the system with renewed perspective and unity. As the cube lowers, Matrix and Andrea press forward once more, guided by hard-won clarity and a deeper bond. The journey home continues. Episode 7, Number 7, Matrix. Once Enzo awakens in an absurdly surreal game. A dreamlike golf course, complete with oversized obstacles, plush hazards, and a rule set that makes no sense. Andrea, ever playful, teases him for nearly losing to a rogue golf ball. But beneath the laughter lies something deeper. This bizarre game begins to mirror the Matrix's internal unrest. Suddenly, the landscape fractures. Matrix is pulled into a strange psychedelic trial set in a prison-like village, unmistakably inspired by The Prisoner. He becomes both defendant and captive, accused by 12 mask-wearing binomes who chant charges without clarity. The surreal nature of the trial only deepens as familiar faces appear. Hack and Slash, acting as unnerving character witnesses, perform a haunting version of Dry Bones, mocking his evolution. Matrix tries to fight his way through the illusion, desperate to find Number 1, the figure seemingly orchestrating the madness. The confrontation comes not from an external villain, but within. He finds himself face to face with a younger Enzo, bright-eyed, hopeful, and innocent. The moment is raw. Their argument unearths everything Matrix has tried to bury. His fear, his unchecked anger, his thirst for control, becoming something not unlike Megabyte. The trial reaches its climax when a giant golf ball crashes down, silencing Matrix in the dream, symbolically smothering the rage he's carried for so long. He wakes suddenly back on the cartoonish golf course. Andrea is lining up her final shot, preparing to sink the ball past a plush tiger and a mechanical shark. It had all been a game. But for Matrix, it was more than that. It was a reckoning. The experience has shaken something loose. Looking out across the fairway, Matrix doesn't just reholster his weapon. He fires at the game itself, a symbolic gesture of defiance. He's no longer running from himself. The path ahead is still uncertain, but his resolve is clear. He will find Mainframe, and he will find Bob. Recentered and reinvigorated, Matrix takes his first step forward. No longer just a survivor, but a guardian reclaiming his purpose. Episode 8, the episode with no name. Matrix and Andrea arrive in a remote desert port system, a strange sun-bleached city stretched between a vast desert and the endless sea. The architecture is a blend of weathered stone fortresses and faded coastal towers, with empty cobbled streets winding beneath a heavy, silent sky. Though eerily beautiful, the place feels abandoned, its once bustling ports now quiet and cautious. As they begin to investigate, a tear rips open nearby, followed swiftly by the descent of a GameCube. The timing feels deliberate, something more than coincidence. The game isn't just another challenge, it's a sign that bigger forces are at play. The system's fragile calm is quickly broken. Their search for answers brings them face to face with Guardian Turbo, now a hardened figure, maintaining a strict Guardians-only travel lockdown. He reveals the dire truth. Demon, a powerful viral entity, has infected most of the Guardian ranks. Only a few remain untouched: himself, Bob, and Matrix. With the Guardian network compromised, the net is no longer safe. Turbo, though wary, agrees to help guide Matrix and Andrea to the system's portal network, one of the few paths left to access the wider net. But even as they form a temporary alliance, tensions rise. Turbo's iron-fisted control clashes with Matrix's raw independence, and trust proves difficult. Still, both sides understand the stakes. Amid the crumbling infrastructure and rising fear, the crew begins to piece together a picture of what lies ahead. The threat of Demon isn't just a distant danger, it's already reshaping the digital universe. Systems are falling, allies are vanishing, and every step forward means walking deeper into enemy territory. This episode marks a shift. The mission is no longer just about surviving or finding Bob, it's about confronting something larger than any of them. As Matrix and Andrea prepare to journey deeper into the net, they carry with them more than resolve. They carry the last real hope of restoring balance. The final arc begins, promising darker twists, hard choices, and a return to mainframe that now feels both closer than ever and unimaginably far away. Episode 9, Return of the Crimson Binome. Matrix, Enzo, and Andrea lay low in a dusty cantina on a portal system dock, keeping a low profile in the shadow of a Guardian-issued bounty. Their tense quiet is broken by the arrival of a familiar figure, Captain Capacitor, the notorious Crimson Binome, with his ever-anxious accountant, Mr. Christopher. The pirate duo has just arrived from the desert system and is clearly on the run themselves. Before introductions can be made, chaos erupts. Mistaking each other for threats, both parties engage in a brief chase through the cluttered dockside streets. It ends in a tense standoff until Matrix reveals his identity and Andrea steps in to de-escalate, convincing Capacitor that they're allies. She offers a bold proposition, help them in exchange for a plan to free his captured crew. Inside a heavily fortified prison nearby, Ray Tracer, a sleek, cocky surfer imprisoned for illegal system hopping, sits bruised and defiant after being roughed up by guard binomes. Outside, Andrea uses her charm and grace to distract the guards. Frisket, ever loyal and resourceful, hacks into the security system. With timing and force, Matrix and Capacitor blast through the prison walls, catching the guards off guard. In the chaos, they free the pirate crew, and eventually Ray himself. The group regathers at the docks, preparing to board the Saucy Mare, but before they can escape, 2 Guardian warships descend, opening fire. In the thick of the attack, Ray appears, carving through enemy fire on his digital surfboard to pluck Andrea from the path of oncoming CPU cars. His showy rescue draws admiration and a flicker of jealousy from Matrix. The pirates retaliate, damaging the warships just enough to escape. They burst through the portal, but not unscathed. The portal generator is damaged during their flight. Now, stranded at the mysterious edge of beyond, they find themselves facing uncharted systems and an uncertain future. With no clear way forward, Ray casually suggests they surf the web. Matrix watches him with a wary eye, unsure if Ray is a potential ally or competition he wasn't prepared for. Episode 10, The Edge of Beyond. As the Saucy Mare, now helmed by Ray Tracer, approaches the edge of beyond, a vast, jagged rift framed by swirling debris, the crew braces for the unknown. To protect the ship, they scavenge from the environment, crafting makeshift web shields using the remains of fallen web creatures. The result is a haunting new look, the vessel armored in bone-like ribbing, both eerie and functional. Tensions simmer beneath the surface. Matrix grows increasingly resentful of Ray's easy confidence and growing influence among the crew. Andrea, meanwhile, quietly struggles, not just with Matrix's jealousy, but with the strain it places on them both. While exploring the debris field, Andrea stumbles upon an unusual organic structure, a living egg tower pulsing with energy. Before she can retreat, it hatches, and a newborn web creature lunges. It bites her, draining part of her code in a desperate bid to survive. She collapses, weakened but alive. Ray intervenes, recognizing something different in the creature. He believes it holds the key to stabilizing the chaotic rift, and may be Andrea's only hope. Matrix is hesitant, torn between distrust and desperation. Ultimately, he relents, allowing the creature aboard. As the ship begins to respond to the creature's presence, transformation takes hold. Ray dons new web-scaled armor. The ship hums with new energy, and the rift begins to pulse open. With no other options, they follow Ray's lead, plunging into the web. Inside, the environment is hostile and disorienting, a churning sea of volatile web energy. Navigating the lead soup proves perilous, with strange currents and bursts of raw data surging around them. Amid this chaos, a massive web creature appears, hunted and enraged, with a shadowy rider on its back. Refusing to stand by, Matrix boards a specially shielded lifeboat, prepared for a solo confrontation. As Ray declares this realm his digital domain, Matrix rejects the posturing, tossing aside his gun to face the threat on his own terms. As the Saucy Mare barrels deeper into the unknown, the crew braces for what comes next. Battle lines drawn, loyalties tested, and the web's secrets still hidden just beyond reach. Mousetrap. With Bob finally reunited aboard the Saucy Mare, Matrix, Andrea, and the crew turn their focus toward home, Mainframe. But the path back is far from clear. Mouse, fiercely protective of the system's web entry point, has rigged the surrounding space with lethal digital defenses. As the ship nears the tear, one of her energy bolts slams into its shields, shorting out vital systems and leaving them adrift in hostile territory. Hoping to avoid further detection, the crew powers down and drifts in silence, but their hopes are short-lived. Another crackling bolt arcs through the void, severing their power tracks and plunging the ship into deeper peril. Acting fast, they deploy the ship's sails, attempting to ride the ambient energy waves toward the tear. It's a desperate maneuver. The sails catch just enough charge to carry them forward, but burn to ash in the process, leaving the ship barely limping toward the rift. As they near their goal, a new threat emerges. Glowing, pixelated attacks, somewhere between code and creature, begin gnawing at the ship's outer hull. Bob calls in the Web Riders, who take to the outside, fending off the onslaught with swift precision. Inside, Ray Tracer throws up a protective web-based shield, buying precious time as Andrea fights to reboot the failing engines. Just as it seems they might push through, Mouse's final trap springs. A containment field shrinks rapidly around the tear, cutting off the Saucy Mare's path. With Ray unable to stabilize the rift from inside, all eyes turn to Bob. Resolute, he calls on Glitch, his key tool, and makes a fateful choice. Merging it into himself, Bob emerges transformed. His new form glows with golden and silver armor, a star icon pulsing at his chest. Radiating power, he opens a luminous portal through the closing rift and with a surge of energy tows the Saucy Mare through. As the darkness of the web falls away, the skyline of Mainframe shimmers into view. The crew stares in awe, battle-worn but alive. Against impossible odds, they've made it home. And for the first time in a long while, hope begins to rise. Megaframe, glitch-enhanced, Bob, Matrix, Andrea, and the crew of the Saucy Mare return from the web, only to find Mainframe in ruins. The system they once knew is now unrecognizable, scarred by the aftermath of an all-out war between Megabyte, Hexadecimal, and the Resistance. As their ship touches down, the scale of destruction becomes clear. Crumbling structures, flickering sector lights, and debris-strewn streets filled with damaged and displaced binomes. It doesn't take long to realize that Megabyte has claimed near-total control. Mainframe is fractured, its systems in disarray. Bob and Matrix set out quietly to scout the city's war-torn sectors, moving through the shadows of what was once their home. Along the way, they encounter a familiar sight: hack and slash. But the once goofy duo has been reprogrammed, now operating under Megabyte's viral influence. Their personalities dulled, they coldly escort Bob and Matrix through scorched zones and toward what remains of the Resistance. Deep within the ruins, hidden bunkers house the last flickers of hope. Dot, Mouse, and a small band of surviving rebels greet them with cautious relief. The reunion is bittersweet. Dot explains how the system's PIDs, its personal ID system, have been corrupted, allowing Megabyte to overwrite Mainframe itself. And for the first time in a long while, hope begins to rise. Now, the city has been forcibly renamed Megaframe, a grim symbol of the virus's dominance. Mouse continues to fight through her shrinking network link, maintaining contact between fragmented pockets of resistance. But morale is low, and their resources are stretched thin. Even the digital air feels heavy with decay. In a fortified control node elsewhere, Megabyte surveys his conquest. But his ambitions extend beyond domination. He's working to open a portal, an escape route from a system he's drained dry, now on the verge of collapse. The episode closes on a solemn note. The heroes, back together at last, steel themselves for the battles ahead. Mainframe may be battered, but it's not broken, not yet. Showdown. With Mainframe now a fractured, virus-dominated Megaframe hanging by a thread, the Resistance rallies for one final push. Matrix, glitch-enhanced Bob, Andrea, Dot, Mouse, and the software pirates unite to stop Megabyte from escaping into the web and spreading his corruption beyond. Megabyte is dangerously close to his goal. He's already extracted half of the web access code from a captured and weakened Fong. The final piece is within reach. Viral binomes form a tight perimeter around the principal office, guarding a volatile tear in the subsphere, Megabyte's portal to freedom. Aboard the Saucy Mare, Captain Capacitor and Andrea strike the first blow. In a calculated act of sacrifice, they load the ship with explosives and launch it straight into Megabyte's viral fleet. The resulting explosion rips through the defenders, tearing open a path toward the principal office and throwing the viral forces into disarray. Seizing the moment, Matrix leads ground forces through the chaos. Mouse and her network-linked squads coordinate flanking routes, while Dot and scattered binome fighters push forward through the smoldering wreckage. Inside the office, Matrix races against time to reach Fong, still alive but barely holding on. The final confrontation begins in the spiral chamber, deep at the system's core. Matrix comes face to face with Megabyte. He tosses aside his gun, determined to settle things without digital shortcuts. The fight is brutal and personal. Matrix lands a crushing blow, blocking Megabyte's claws with Andrea's trident in a symbolic clash of strength and loyalty. Elsewhere in the stronghold, Bob finds himself at the mercy of Hexadecimal. Her chaotic presence is laced with mischief, but beneath the madness lies an unpredictable intent. Her role in this final battle still unclear. Back at the chamber, Fong, despite his weakened state, completes the second half of the web access code. The system wails as alarms flare, signaling the countdown to either salvation or Megabyte's full-scale escape. The fate of the mainframe hangs in the balance. With the tear destabilizing and battle raging on every level, the next moments will decide everything. End prog. With mainframe on the edge of total collapse, the remaining citizens and binomes brace for one last, desperate hope. A full system crash intended to force a user-initiated reboot. It's a dangerous gamble, but one that could be their only chance to save what's left. Dot and Fong work tirelessly, scanning the system's remaining PIDs, personal identification codes, to determine who can be preserved through the reboot. It's a grim task, knowing that any character left unregistered could be erased forever. In a bold and controversial decision, Bob persuades Fong to assign Hexadecimal her own PID. Despite her chaotic nature, he believes she deserves a second chance. It's a quiet moment of compassion amid the turmoil. As preparations unfold, the city continues to unravel. Glitches ripple through the landscape, and remnants of Megabyte's viral forces lash out in unpredictable bursts. Citizens take shelter in the reinforced bunker beneath the principal office, their fear palpable. Every tremor, every flicker of the system grid is a reminder that time is running out. Once again, it's Bob who steps forward. Alone, he descends into the system core to manually initiate the crash sequence. The journey is agonizing. As he moves deeper into the core, the system fights back, manifesting twisted hallucinations of Megabyte, dredging up his fears and insecurities. But Bob endures. With steady resolve, he flips the final control rods. One by one, mainframe's subsectors go dark. Then, a final event. A massive GameCube descends from the sky. It crashes down in a blinding pulse of energy, sealing the system's fate. The crash is triggered. In a brilliant flash of light, everything resets. When the system reboots, mainframe reappears, whole again. The damage is gone, the city restored, but it isn't identical. Some things are subtly altered. Among the changes, one stands out. Two versions of Enzo now exist. The duplication, caused by his retained game sprite icon, is a side effect of surviving the crash in multiple states. The crisis has passed. The system breathes again. Another arc ends, but a new one waits on the horizon.
Traitor! You were supposed to help us.
Season 4, 2001, Episode 1, Demon Rising. In the wake of a catastrophic viral outbreak, mainframe braces for its most devastating threat yet. A powerful supervirus named Demon has infected nearly the entire Guardian collective, leaving only Bob and Matrix untouched. With her insidious mind control contagion known as the Word, Demon seeks to impose a twisted unity across the entire net. Soon, an armada of Guardian ships, now under Demon's control, breaches mainframe's weakened defenses. Dot, faced with overwhelming odds, rallies the city's protectors into a desperate last stand. At the same time, Matrix and Andrea race back toward Mainframe, speeding through the net on combat bikes while Guardian warships close in fast behind them. The situation worsens when Demon's forces seize a crucial port control tower, allowing enemy reinforcements to flood the system. Inside Mainframe, the battle intensifies. Bob and Matrix clash bitterly over strategy. Bob clings to hope, refusing to delete the infected Guardians, while Matrix argues for harsher measures to save the system. Dot quickly orders all power diverted to the city's defensive turrets, and the CPU fleet takes flight, launching a full-scale defense against the invasion. But the threat isn't just external. Demon, operating from the supercomputer, begins manipulating compromised systems and targeting Bob directly. As the last uninfected Guardian capable of creating portals, he represents her final key to spreading the infection across the net. As pressure mounts, Bob begins to falter. The mental and emotional toll of fighting Demon, coupled with the fear of losing everything, weighs heavily on him. At the city's core, just as it seems the invaders might overwhelm them, Hexadecimal unexpectedly intervenes. Tapping into her volatile viral powers, she pushes back against Demon's forces, buying time, but at a severe personal cost. Demon, undeterred, fixes her gaze on Bob. With the fate of the net hanging in the balance, she moves to claim him as her final prize, intent on completing her infection of everything that remains.
Welcome.
Episode 2, Cross Nodes. Deep within the master clock, Demon tightens her grip on the net. Drawing power from its core, she begins transforming clusters of infected Guardians into viral seeds, twisting their code from muted purples into a sickly, toxic green. These corrupted sentinels are dispatched across the net, their mission clear: capture Bob. As the last uninfected Guardian capable of creating portals, he represents the final piece in Demon's plan to spread her mind-controlling infection, known as the Word, to every corner of the digital world. Meanwhile, Matrix and Andrea push forward through a treacherous, deteriorating system. Racing against time, they erect a firewall barrier along the edge of a gaping hole in the net, a last-ditch attempt to slow Demon's relentless advance. But their success comes at a steep cost. In their haste, they inadvertently lead a force of infected Guardians into Mainframe itself, among them a fully converted Turbo, once the head of the Guardian Collective, now just another weapon in Demon's arsenal. Back in Mainframe's war room, tension runs high. Bob and Dot study the viral incursions spreading along the net's key nodes. Demon has seized control of critical pathways, but entire systems haven't yet fallen, giving Mainframe a narrow window of opportunity. Acting quickly, Dot authorizes the shutdown of a major inter-system hub, temporarily halting Demon's momentum and buying the defenders precious time. In a quieter but no less crucial corner of the city, Dot reaches out to the null mass, the strange, pulsing residue of past digital lives. Her connection sparks unexpected movement. Amid this growing mystery, Hexadecimal undergoes a startling transformation. Once chaotic and unstable, she now hints at something more focused, something evolving. Her shift suggests there may be deeper forces in play, ones not even Demon has foreseen. As the net teeters on the brink, the balance between infection and resistance tightens. Every move from here on may decide whether Mainframe endures or falls. Episode 3, What's Love Got to Do With It? As Demon's grip on the net tightens, Matrix and Mouse launch a high-stakes mission deep into infected territory. Their goal? Strike at the heart of the virus and disrupt its advance. But the operation takes a devastating turn. During the chaos, Andrea becomes infected. Once a fierce ally, her mind is overtaken by Demon's will, and she falls under the virus's control. Her loss delivers a shattering blow to the Resistance, and to Matrix, who now faces the unthinkable. Back in Mainframe, the emotional toll grows heavier. Dot turns to Hexadecimal, desperate for a miracle. Encased in a strange null cocoon lies the fractured essence of her long-lost father. Haunted by guilt and clinging to hope, Dot pleads with Hex to restore what remains of him. Hexadecimal, transformed and unstable, holds the power, but her motives remain unclear. As Mainframe begins to fray under the strain of Demon's assault, the moment feels as fragile as the system itself. Meanwhile, Bob makes a last-ditch attempt to save what little remains of the Guardian Collective. He tries to purge the virus from Turbo, his former commander and friend, hoping that his unique portal power might be enough to reverse the infection. But it fails. The virus runs too deep. In that moment, Bob is forced to reckon with his limits, realizing that even he cannot undo the corruption Demon has unleashed. With Andrea lost, Dot emotionally shaken, and Bob struggling under the weight of failure, the once unbreakable trio now stands fractured. Each is pulled by personal grief, moral dilemmas, and the creeping dread that Demon's influence may be irreversible. The episode doesn't just mark a strategic loss, it exposes the emotional fault lines beneath their resistance. As the story closes, Mainframe's defenders are left battered and divided. The war has taken more than systems and sectors. It's begun to take pieces of who they are. The cliffhanger looms heavy, with Demon's shadow growing ever larger and hope stretched perilously thin.
11110.
Episode 4, Sacrifice. With Demon's infection portal tearing through Mainframe's final defenses, Dot makes a critical decision, evacuating little Enzo, Hack, Slash, and Frisket into a GameCube for protection. As chaos spreads, Dot and the Principal Office team scramble to raise a secondary firewall, but the defenses fail. The initial barrier collapses, and Demon infiltrates Mainframe directly. One by one, beloved allies fall. Wellman, Fong, Mouse, Matrix, and even Andrea succumb to her control, becoming extensions of her will. Meanwhile, Bob begins to deteriorate. Overusing his portal-creating ability to contain Demon's spread, his energy fades fast. The burden is immense, and it's clear he's reaching his limit. Just as Mainframe teeters on total collapse, the GameCube opens. Emerging from within is little Enzo, now fully grown, aged into a seasoned sprite. In the face of devastation, he rises. Taking command, Enzo confronts the infected with courage and clarity. One by one, he reactivates their Guardian icons, sparking a reversal of Demon's control. Together with Hack, Slash, Andrea, and a newly restored Matrix, he helps reclaim Hexadecimal and Wellman from null infection, reigniting hope in the process. But the battle is far from over. In a final confrontation, Demon captures Bob and Dot, preparing to complete her domination. At that moment, Hexadecimal, now drawing immense power from Mainframe's system core, launches herself at Demon. The two viruses collide in a blinding eruption, triggering Demon's self-destruct protocol, Cron, a system-wide countdown, threatening deletion of everything she has touched. Faced with annihilation, Hexadecimal makes the ultimate sacrifice. Her final act purges Demon's influence, neutralizing the threat and preserving Bob, Mainframe, and the net itself. In the aftermath, Mainframe is saved, but the scars remain. Bob is left weakened. Hexadecimal is gone, and Dot, finally able to speak from the heart, confesses her love. Yet just as the system begins to recover, a second Bob appears, identical but unknown. The episode ends in shock and uncertainty, with one war over, but another mystery just beginning. Episode 5, My Two Bobs. In the aftermath of Demon's defeat, Mainframe barely has time to recover before a new mystery shakes the system. From the web, a second Bob arrives, identical in appearance to the Guardian everyone knows and trusts. The revelation sends shockwaves through the core team. Dot, Matrix, Enzo, Glitch, the merged form of Bob and his key tool, and the rest struggle to determine the truth. Which Bob is the original, and which could be an imposter? For Dot, the uncertainty is deeply personal. With emotions already raw, she turns to Fong for wisdom, seeking clarity amid the confusion. Both Bobs, equally earnest, begin to compete for her attention, sharing moments, memories, and even a quiet cup of coffee at the diner. As wedding plans begin to unfold, the pressure builds. Dot is faced with a painful decision, choosing who to marry, while the true nature of each Bob remains in question. Amid the emotional turmoil, a GameCube drops into mainframe, offering a surreal and comedic reprieve. Matrix, Enzo, and one of the Bobs enter Pantsu Hebi X, a wild parody of classic creature battling games. Inside, the trio confronts absurd digital monsters. Frisket evolves into the electrified Frisket Chew, and Bob morphs into a polygonal warrior armed with ridiculous attacks like atomic nostril blast and nuclear bottom burp. The episode leans into its irreverent humor, providing comic relief even as the deeper tensions continue to simmer. As the cube fades and the laughter dies down, the uncertainty lingers. Dot remains torn between the two Bobs, both familiar, both sincere, and both seemingly real. The rest of Mainframe watches anxiously, aware that the answer to this mystery could change everything.
Covered with? What happened, Dot? I don't know.
Episode 6, Life's a Glitch. Glitch Bob is unraveling. Fused with his key tool and unsure of his true self, he becomes convinced that as long as he remains part glitch, he'll never be fully whole, never truly worthy of Dot's love. Desperate for resolution, he seeks out Fong at the supercomputer, hoping for access to the archives and a possible way to separate from the fusion. But Fong, wary of the risks, refuses. Undeterred, Glitch Bob turns to Mouse, who, true to form, hacks her way in to help him. While he searches for answers, Dot remains paralyzed by indecision. She confides in Mouse and Fong, torn between two versions of the Guardian who shaped her life. They advise her to trust her heart, but the weight of the choice, compounded by uncertainty and emotional fatigue, leaves her no closer to a decision. Elsewhere, a new GameCube descends, drawing Matrix, Andrea, Little Enzo, Fong, Hack, Slash, and the new Bob into its code. The game, Rocky the Rabid Raccoon 2, a chaotic, parody-laden platformer, transformed into bizarre avatars, G.I. Bob, Barbie-style Andrea, a Darth Vader-like Matrix, Yogurt Cup Fong, Soda Can Hack and Slash, and a hand puppet Enzo. They're forced to rely on slapstick teamwork and wit to survive. The level's humor offers a much-needed break from the rising tension in Mainframe. Back in the supercomputer, Glitch Bob pushes forward. He activates a prototype portal generator, using a splitter command in a final attempt to separate himself from Glitch. But the experiment fails catastrophically. A burst of unstable energy encases him in a crystalline shell, frozen, silent, and unresponsive. As the others triumph in the game and return, the celebration is brief. News of Glitch Bob's condition spreads quickly. In the midst of grief and uncertainty, Dot makes her choice. Despite the heartbreak, she decides to marry the other Bob, following her heart at last.
The blushing bride. One final kiss.
Episode 7, Nullbot of the Bride. Mainframe hums with excitement as preparations for Dot and Normal Bob's wedding get underway. With the city still recovering from chaos, the original venue is deemed too unstable. Instead, C-Cell takes charge, transforming the principal office entrance hall into a makeshift chapel. Decorations go up, guests arrive, and anticipation fills the air. Yet beneath the celebration, uncertainty still lingers. Far away in the supercomputer, the real Glitch Bob lies comatose, encased in an unbreakable crystalline shell. No guardian, tool, or algorithm has been able to break through. He remains silent, frozen, a haunting reminder that something isn't right. As the ceremony begins, a heartfelt moment unfolds. Little Enzo, determined to give Dot the family she deserves, uses the last of Hexadecimal's legacy code to restore their father, Wellman. Revived inside a robotic suit, Nullbot Wellman rises and proudly walks Dot down the aisle. The gathering watches in awe, mourning what was lost and celebrating what's returned. Inside the crystalline cocoon, something stirs. Within Glitch Bob's mind, fragments of his key tool begin to reintegrate. The fusion stabilizes. In a flash of light, he awakens, revived but changed. Turbo, observing the event, notes a troubling detail. The code now differs. This Bob might not be a perfect original. He may be a copy. Back at the ceremony, Dot and the groom, still believed to be the real Bob, stand ready to seal their vows. But just as they lean in for the kiss, the unexpected happens. The true Glitch Bob appears, fully restored. Energy arcs between the two Bobs as code transfers. The groom begins to morph, his disguise breaking apart. It's not Bob at all. In a shocking twist, the false groom reveals himself to be Megabyte, reborn with Trojan horse capabilities. He launches into action, abducting Specky in the chaos and disappearing before anyone can stop him. The wedding lies in ruins, guests stunned, and Dot devastated. The episode ends in disarray. Mainframe reels from betrayal, and the return of a cunning, evolved Megabyte marks the beginning of a new and dangerous chapter. Episode 8, Crouching Binome, Hidden Virus. Mainframe reels in the aftermath of the wedding ambush. Megabyte has returned, not as the virus they once knew, but as something far more dangerous. Now, a Trojan horse virus, he possesses the terrifying ability to shapeshift, mimicking any sprite with chilling precision. The system is thrown into paranoia. Inside the war room, Bob, Dot, Matrix, Andrea and Mouse confront the implications. No one knows who Megabyte might be imitating. He could be anywhere, anyone. Turbo suggests deploying a viral incident team to hunt him down, but Bob pushes back. Memories of Demon's invasion remain fresh, and he argues for containment and cure, not deletion. Outside, fear spreads fast. Neo-viral binomes begin to gather, their programming altered by subtle infection. Infected vid windows, hijacked by twisted versions of Mike the TV, flood the airwaves, stoking panic and suspicion. Citizens are urged to turn on one another, unsure of who can be trusted. Amid the growing unrest, Megabyte's true plan begins to take shape. He steals the Gateway Command, fabricates a false portal location, and lures Bob and the CPU Defense Forces into a carefully orchestrated trap. When they manage to imprison him in a containment portal, it feels like a victory until the truth unravels. The figure inside is only a holographic decoy. Back at the principal office, chaos explodes. The real Megabyte, having disguised himself as Friskit, strikes from within. With brutal efficiency, he infects guards and breaches Mainframe's core defenses. Over the intercom, his voice echoes through the system. Calm, cold, and full of menace, he declares that viruses are meant to hunt, that it is their nature, and the time has come for Mainframe to accept that reality. His chilling proclamation leaves no doubt. The game has changed, and the fate of its people and its future remains terrifyingly uncertain. Well, that concludes the show, albeit on a cliffhanger. Anyhow, even decades after its not-so-finished finale, ReBoot continues to occupy a legendary space in the pop culture mainframe. Back then, critics had mixed feelings. Some really loved the innovative animation and smart writing, while others thought the early visuals were a bit unwieldy compared to traditional animation. Though retrospectives now hail it as a trailblazer and celebrate it as a show ahead of its time, both visually and narratively. It wasn't just flashy polygons and pun-filled scripts. ReBoot tackled themes of identity, sacrifice, censorship, free will, and the digital unknown, all before most of us knew what a firewall was. The series really sparked something in a whole generation of animators, storytellers, and tech enthusiasts. You can see hints of ReBoot in a bunch of stuff like Wreck-It Ralph and Ready Player One, among others. For me, revisiting ReBoot is like decrypting a fond, corrupted memory file from childhood, familiar yet full of surprises. It's a show that grows with you, one render at a time. So if you've never been to Mainframe, or if it's just been a few CPU cycles since your last visit, now's the time to log back in. The system may be old school, but the legacy, that's permanently embedded. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more such cartoon awesomeness.